All rise for the pledge to the flag.
United States of America, stands one nation under God, indivisible, liberty and justice.
The first thing we have is we have Mr. and Mrs. McCoy. Would you like to state your name and address? Good evening. My name is Sue McCoy, 804 Crestview Avenue in Cumru Township. So I'm actually here on behalf of an ad hoc committee for the celebrating the Governor Mifflin League's 50th anniversary. And the league sponsors the yearly fair known as Community Days. So it's hard to believe back in 1976, they formed a committee, being it was the 200th anniversary of our founding of our country, and they wanted to do something special. There have been many dedicated volunteers, countless hours that organized community days over these years. And the Greater Governor Mifflin League has returned over $600,000 back to community organizations. They would, yes, we got it. I didn't know that before getting involved in this committee. The league represents the 5 communities in the Governor Mifflin School District, Brecknock and Cumru Townships, Kenhurst, Moulton, and Shillington boroughs. As a committee, we are inviting the 5 communities to participate in several ways. While still in the planning phase, one idea has been to have a display area for anything the municipalities would like to highlight about their community. We are asking you to consider what Cumru Township might want to display. For example, historical memorabilia or a picture of the new fire company that serves the entire township. The other item we would like Cumru Township to consider is participating in a parade that will be held on Sunday, June 28th, 2026. This could be a fire truck, a police car, or any other vehicle displaying the name and representation of Cumru Township. For planning purposes, we'll be in contact this coming fall to get your input for any participation you'd like to make. Finally, we'd like to thank Cumru Township for its participating and help over these many years to make Community Days a successful local event. Thank you.
Question, but as far as what we'd like to display, one thing that immediately comes to my mind is Chief Winchester, a couple months back, for those who recall, presented an accommodation to a citizen, a resident of the township for an act of heroism. And whether he wants to be there or not, I think that's a great thing to call out to the community.
Again, it's in the initial planning phase. I'll be in touch with Patty and Jean to find out what your pleasure might be and throw some ideas around. Thank you for your time. Thank you. Mike, now with Carson, am I saying that right?
Yeah, you got it. No, I'm good. I'm good. I just thought I might have to talk. You guys continue on. Thanks.
Mr. Glenn Emery, would you like to speak? State your name and your address, please.
Glenn Emery, 4 Fairway Road, Cumru Township. So it's an exciting time right now. We're starting a primary, a lot of elections, a lot of signs out. So I drove around and looked at all the signs. This year we worked on about a $650,000 deficit, I guess. And I see that there's 2 signs. Mr. Miller, you have a sign out, and Mr. Bathorn, about no higher taxes. So my question is, how can we avoid a deficit? What's your plan for that? And also, what services will have to be removed to accomplish no higher taxes? Thank you.
Any comments or questions? Sue Cass. Am I saying that right?
Real quick, before we go back to that, I'd like to address Mr. Emery's comments. I think you bring up very important points. I think for those who attended or watched on YouTube, the budget meetings, the proposal to raise taxes not come lightly for some members of the board. For others, it came quite easily. In fact, it was proposed to raise taxes substantially higher. There was pushback when we were trying to rein in some of those tax increases. Yes, we need to offer services. I too found some of those signs disingenuous.
Sue, are you here? No, thanks. Oh, yeah, would you like to come up and state your name and address? No. So moving on to the. We tried some things around it for a little more efficient, if you have an attorney here. So we're going to move on to administration and Dean Johnson, what do you think?
I presume that Ms. Frankowski is recusing herself from the discussion.
That's correct. I'm recusing myself and I'll turn it over to Mr. Becker.
For the audience's information, Dan Becker is the solicitor representing Cumru Township for the Hawthorne Land Development.
Thank you very much. So my name is Dan Becker. I'm special counsel in the township and working township.
Would you mind just leaving the microphones?
So again, Dan Becker, law firm's Kozloff Stout. I'm special counsel for the township, but I've been working with the township on this project since prior to COVID. Before me, there was another attorney by the name of Kip Tangley who was involved with it since 2008. This is the Hawthorne project. We're nearing the end of this particular project. I just want to explain to you kind of where we are tonight and then talk to you a little bit about the next steps. So if you recall, for those of you who don't know some of the history, I think most of you know it, or at least have heard it before. Back in roughly the 2008 timeframe, developer came in and filed a land development project, which was proposing 178 singles, 200 townhouses, 152 apartments, and 11,000 square feet of commercial uses on the property, which is a 290-acre property up behind the ARL. I think everybody knows what that is. That process went through the land development project and was back and forth with a lot of meetings and planning commission meetings and township meetings and hearings. And ultimately, what it led to was in 2016, the plan was denied. So it took about 8 years to get to that point. The plan was denied. I was involved with the plan denial. That was when we came in shortly after I got there. We came back and said, look, this thing's been languishing, we need to move forward, so deny it. After we denied it, the developer filed a land use appeal. That land use appeal went into the Court of Common Pleas, and we started going through the litigation process, which, as you might imagine, and I'm sure you know, does take time and cost a lot of money. At some point during that process, the developer came back and proposed a different plan that was going to be, rather than the 178 singles, 200 townhouses, 152 apartments, and 11,000 square feet of commercial space, was going to be 200 apartments here. And that's the plan that's before you this evening. That's the plan that over the next several years that we've been reviewing and going through, trying to see if we can find a way to make that work so that it makes sense for trying to settle this litigation, something that will have provides ratables, access to the township without a great deal of additional expense. So for instance, in this particular plan, the way it's designed with the 200 unit apartments, the township's not going to be taking over the roads, has no responsibility for the roads, for maintenance, plowing, anything like that. And we're not taking over the sewer lines either, so there's no responsibility for that as well. So they're all privately owned and privately maintained. As the process went through the settlement process, we involved the all actually departments of the township at some point in time, some way or another, were involved in reviewing this process, including your engineer, public works, the police at some point very early on were involved as well. Fire was definitely involved and made a number of comments. We made we did a number of changes actually based upon that to come up with what we believe to be the best plan that we can get for the township to try to get this resolved. In 2000, and make sure I get the dates here right, but then in 2023, November 2023, Board of Commissioners approved the settlement agreement and this particular plan. That then went to the court then endorsed it and approved the settlement agreement, and that happened in September of 2020. So where we are right now is we have a plan before you that has been approved by the commissioners in the past and has been approved by the courts. And we're here tonight to ask for you to just reaffirm that and execute the plan, to sign the plan, finally approving this, so we can get this thing wrapped up. Now, understand the plan, the approval will be conditioned upon a couple of typical land development items, which you guys should be familiar with, which are things like municipal improvements agreements and things of that nature, which, by the way, talking to council, they're pretty much ready to go. I will also let you know that as part of this, there will be some payments that will be made to the township. For instance, I just want to make sure I get my numbers right here. The township will receive roughly $150,000. I think it's $147,991 for a traffic impact fee. There's going to be rec fees that will be paid, and it'll be sewer tapping fees that will be paid in the amount of $616,906.48. So those will be contingencies for them, once we get this thing signed. This is the next step to get it all wrapped up. So my recommendation to you as your special counsel this evening is to approve this plan based upon the court's execution of the settlement agreement and to get this thing resolved once and for all. Fine. If anybody has any questions, I'm happy to try to entertain those questions. Do you have questions?
Do you have any details on like when construction would start, when they would start moving and so on and so forth?
I don't. The developers here, we can ask them that question. So I don't know if you have answers to that yet or not. So if you want to come up, maybe go over there, John.
Just state your name and your company.
Even John Rathbone, Metropolitan Companies. So goal would be to have start construction later this fall, site construction. Site construction would probably be over the winter, extend out. We're probably getting the roads springtime and then start the vertical construction. Probably be about an 18-month or two to build vertical construction. So we probably start moving residents in and the fall of 2026, the first set of residents. And then we, based on absorption, we turn over a building probably every other month, which we work for the community.
This may be too soon to ask this question, but do we have any idea what kind of tax revenue we would see from this project?
So we did have a fiscal impact study prepared. The annual net combined, so after all the expenses for the community, it's net surplus of $284,000. With the recurring tax base.
Are there any other questions?
Here we have some public, members of the public that has questions. I just asked, you mentioned we had our public works, our administration, if there's any additional context, for those like me who are only superficially familiar with.
Sure, that's a good question. Gene's been involved with this, I think, since the beginning, so there's probably no one that knows better than her in terms of the procedural places this has been.
What would you like to know?
I mean, one of the things that just made my eyebrow twitch a little bit is sort of context around this original denial. I understand it sounds like it's changed radically since that original denial went through.
Why did it change?
Why it was originally denied, perhaps why it was changed. Your thoughts.
The original plan that Mr. Becker talked about, the different types of units and whatnot, was originally going to be an age restricted community. and spread across the 200 acres, almost encompassing almost all of the acreage up there. In the subsequent iterations, when the age restricted aspect was removed from the development, they went to townhomes, 380 townhomes in front of the interim plan. Again, spread over most of the hillside, and they could never make the slope wood. In accordance with our ordinance.
Now, the only thing I would say to that is, they believed that they could. And part of what so they believed that they could, they had designed retaining walls that were very large. We believe that they violated, so at the end of the day, the reason it was ultimately rejected back in 2016 was because they weren't compliant with the ordinance.
Yeah.
And we went to great lengths in terms of that denial, pulling out the provisions of the ordinance that they were not compliant with. Among them was steep slopes. And then that's what was the basis for the denial of sale.
Yeah, when I say make it work, I mean working without any waiver. That's what was not going to be possible. So the township rejected the plan as it was designed at that time. And the Board of Commissioners authorized negotiation. And during the negotiations, that's where this more compact development has come in. But they're limited to 200 sprinkler units by the fire code. The fire department was very instrumental in that respect. Because there's one entrance, they're limited in how much they can build.
Do we need a motion or must we authorize every?
What is it?
So I think just for the record, I think it would be wise to have a motion, and there's a couple other pieces to that. They're administrative pieces. So it's the plan is the big one, right? Like you reaffirm that and sign that. But then there's also as with any, we want to make sure that we have the planning module. If you look at your agenda, you'll see the other items. Adopt the sewer planning module, authorize and execute. There's a sewage treatment agreement that's being prepared by the city of Reading. That's where it ultimately flows. Again, fairly standard, third party agency for that approval. And then, of course, the developers agreement and the stormwater agreements as well. So again, they're all the third party, fairly typical agreements. We would ask, do them all as one motion, them all together to approve.
One further thing I'd like to ask, be completely transparent. I live in Pumpkin Hills, which is on the other side of the land between the Animal Rescue League and development. This would have no effect on me personally, but I'm curious, like, if there was an opening for public comment, what were the general sentiments? Has there been expressed or explored like the potential impacts to like existing residents of the township that may live on Valley Stream Drive and capture back in the townhouses?
But they were all things of factors that were considered. And in terms of the where you live over in your development, it's not going to be going over to that development. The idea of the majority of the traffic is where it's going to be coming out, and the designs for the intersection, they're down at state roads and easy access. So that's one of the actually nice features of this, because there's very little expense for the township, and you're going to have the rates of tax revenues that will be coming in for this particular project. And so that's what helps to make this make a lot of sense for the township.
Do you have a comment? Yes, microphone, please. State your name, please.
Yes, my name is Pat Hobbs. I live on Valley Stream Road. I would like to know where I'm sorry, I've been out of the loop. I try to attend these meetings when I can, but this is a surprise to me. Where is the entrance and exit? Is one exit and entrance? Is that correct?
That's correct.
And where would that come in?
Across from Poplar Neck Road. It's going to create a T intersection with Poplar Neck.
So when they come down, like from the Animal Rescue League, everybody has to turn right.
Right now, Sorry, I'm getting used to a new configuration on this particular microphone. Right now, Kennel Road is right in, right out, even though a lot of people ignore it, but they should not ignore it. This road will be, you can turn both ways. So if you know where Kennel Road is, this is going to be at the apex of that turn where there's some cleared land there.
Trying to picture.
Across from Old Dominion Trucking,
Right, okay.
that's where the entrance will be.
It will be the traffic signal. There will be also access that will allow access to the ARL through that particular roadway.
Is that on one of these
It
three?
is, it is.
Okay, I'm bad picturing. My thing is that section from like Valley Stream and up to the animal rescue is horrid in good weather. You have the rock slides and then you have ice and snow. I had 4-wheel drive and I hit a patch of ice and I swirled around. I thought, oh my God, I'm gonna die today. So I thought it's going to the river. And luckily, nobody else was coming because we can't stop easily. So has there been a traffic study for that as well?
Correct.
Okay,
Yeah, so there has been numerous, that's always been a concern of the townships. It's been something that we've raised from the very beginning. We've spent a great deal of time developing that and working through with the developer. And we believe we have developed as safe as a location as we can for that intersection.
does this development back up onto Flying Hills or onto Steve X from
There,
property?
so it's a big property. And you can come up and take a look at it, you can see where it actually backs up on. So
The property itself backs up against Flying Hills, but it is not being developed in that area.
Sorry, did I hear this? There's a traffic light that's going to be there?
yes,
Okay.
that is correct. There will be traffic.
Where is this on?
It's like right there, where it says like.
Okay, so what you're saying, and this is.
So 24, right, there's the ARL. That's the one.
Okay, so Mr. Act lives on this. He is not adjacent to Flying Hills, so I think he goes.
Oh, there's no signal. Oh, there is not a signal. I apologize. I know we talked about a signal. It does not get signalized. Okay, so it's just not controlled. That's right.
Thank you.
So there,
There is not a signal. It's stop control. That's correct. Yeah. Too many plans.
But there will be traffic alteration, stop
Yeah, that's
signs,
correct.
not other lights.
That's correct.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the orthogonal plan, development plan. By exhibits that are stated below.
I'll second.
Mr. Bill Miller,
Yeah,
Mr. Greg Miller,
yes.
Mr. Bador.
Yes.
Mr. Donnell.
Yes.
Ms. Rao.
Yes.
So we will be asking the board to sign the drawing before you leave this evening.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. It's been a pleasure. I've enjoyed working with your team here. They've been very helpful throughout the years. And I'm glad to see this thing coming quickly here, hopefully to an end. You have a good group, of professional staff, a very good solicitor helping you out too. So
Well, I would recommend to the board to retain, Mr. Becker for any ongoing work that needs to be done during construction. Hopefully that will not be very much.
any of that.
Not yet. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Dan.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It only took 20 years. The zoning for this development was changed November 17th, 2003.
Thank you, guys. Oh, by the way, I did not, I'm doing this, not introduce my paralegal, Adrian, she's been here helping pulling labor awards and budget agreements, so I wanted to thank her also. She was there too, so.
Maybe together.
Thank you, folks. Get out of your hair. Yeah.
Thank you.
Are you gonna take
Item B on the agenda, the board may be aware that the Cumru Township is one, mandated under the municipal separate storm sewer system regulations, also known as MS4. And the MS4 regulations, which concerns how stormwater is handled in what the DEP determines is an urbanized area. To put a pin in that, to give you an example, the building that you're in right now is considered to be in the urbanized area. The building across the street is not. So the DEP determines what qualifies as urbanized area, and they reevaluate that every once in a while. There are numerous municipalities in Berks County that fall under the MS4 regulations. Part of the MS4 regulation is for education, especially education with schools and in environmental centers like Berks Nature or the Nolte Forest Environmental Center. And many of the municipalities in Berks County a number of years ago banded together as the Berks County MS4 Steering Committee, which is administered by the Berks County Planning Commission. As a disclosure, I am the vice chair of that committee this year. That committee does a lot of work with the Berks County Planning Commission of incorporating educational opportunities, especially with respect to schools and related facilities. And every once in a while, we need to update the cost sharing agreement among the numerous municipalities that participate in this committee. So we're talking like 50 municipalities, it's a very large organization. The cost to the township is a whopping $800 a year. I submit to you that is one of the best bargains going. And I would recommend to the Board of Commissioners to adopt a resolution for the updated cost sharing agreement for the MS4 steering group.
Would move to adopt the updated cost sharing agreement. I say.
Mr. Greg Miller,
Yes.
Mr. Baddour,
Yes.
Mr. Donnell,
Yes.
Mr. Bill Miller,
Yes.
Ms. Rao.
Yes.
Thank you very much. I also want to thank the committee. The next item is an item that was on your prior agenda. This is in regard to the tax collector moving to electronic remittances forwarding to the county. Well, when individuals come and pay their county township bill, which I know a number of people have been doing recently because tomorrow is the last day of the discount period. We have 2 drop boxes, 1 on each level. She is now with a new bank that wishes to have the money forwarded to the county via ACH. She had requested that the township adopt the resolution. The reason why the township is involved is because she's under the umbrella of our EIN number. She is requesting a waiver of dual control. When I expressed to her the board's questioning of that, and she pointed out rightfully that she already does it without dual control because she sends a check right now, an actual paper check to the county. And this is doing it electronically. What I had suggested is if the board would reconsider allowing that waiver of dual control, meaning I won't have to countersign any of her checks for the county or any of her ACH remittances to the county. That's what that's referring to. The board could potentially adopt a motion approving the resolution subject to the understanding that this is for the purpose of paying tax entities. But that's what it's doing. And so she wanted me to request the board to reconsider that issue.
I mean, I think it makes sense unless there's any comments, questions out of the to authorize, the dual control with specific, conditions as to how that control is utilized.
Waiver of dual.
Wait, I'm sorry.
I'm just trying to comprehend the current process. So the current process is she cuts a check, she sends it in, and that's it. Nobody checks her work or looks over.
The county audits her every year. She's actually, all tax collectors are audited rigorously. Obviously, our CPA auditor, Irvine, audit the township remittances. This is her using our EIN as part of the process to remit county. So she's collecting county and township taxes together, divvies out the township taxes. Of course, we don't mind that she's sending up our own money. And then the other portion she's remitting to county. And it's that transaction that is the request for waiver of dual control involved.
So is there going to be some sort of like limiting, some sort of limiting control that's going to prevent her from sending money anywhere other than the county?
The township could certainly specify that, and right now, the school district is not doing this. I anticipate, that was right in my line of sight. I anticipate at some point the school district will do it. They're not on board with this electronic yet. And I don't know them if it was that, or I can't answer the question.
I guess the reason I asked that is because it sounds like what you said is there's just an annual control in place, basically once a year. Irvine comes and kicks the tires to make sure everything's okay.
Well, and the county's auditor. Whoever that is, I don't know if that's her.
That's also an annual exercise. But
Yeah.
What's scary to me though is there's a lot of months in between those audits. And if she, look, I'm not saying she's going to do anything, but this is just kind of the way you have to talk through these kind of things. First mitigation, it's kind of what I do. She could have months of sending money all over the place and nobody's going to know about it until the audits come through.
I'm sure that I will tell you if either taxing and let's take the township. If the first week of May, we do not receive a bolus of real estate tax revenue, I guarantee you we'll notice it because a lot of individuals are coming that today, yesterday, and there will be individuals tomorrow. Then the doors closed on discount and it will take a few days for the tax collector to remit to township its money. So it's always the first week of May is when you actually receive it. I guarantee you if that doesn't happen, I will be looking into it to look for that. But I understand what you're saying. That's relying on a personal effort. I'm not sure how to answer your question unless Kelsey has other feedback.
I mean, I think it's ultimately up to the board. I think that, you know, she's been operating under a system where she hasn't been using dual control for a long time, forever. And she's been the township tax collector for how many years?
6 years?
6 years or so. I mean, I think I understand your concern. And I think if you wanted to authorize her to have the waiver of dual control, you could certainly make it subject to only remittances to the county. So that way, I mean, that way there's dual control on anything and everything else she would remit anywhere else, which she really shouldn't be anyway.
Yeah, you know, that's the famous last words, though, right? Like this is the beginning of a bad Lifetime movie where everybody says this is never going to happen to us, and then all of a sudden it does, and then there's a big movie. Once again, I'm not accusing her of anything. I don't think she's that kind of person, but you know, it's not a problem until it is.
But it's also the way, if I can go philosophical for a moment, it's the way our whole real estate tax collection system is set up. For all municipalities. It's an archaic system.
Yes, I hear you. That's, you know, as a process improvement guy, that's the words that everybody hates. So like, this is the way we've always done it.
But the tax collector is also an independent entity.
Understood.
She's bond, right?
Yes.
Yeah, she's also bond.
Maybe let me ask you another way. Is there some other way we can back into controlling, like where she could send these or how much she could send or those kinds of things?
Without, having built underlying infrastructure for the ACH wire transfer network. It's legal control, really, unless you're real-time screening transactions, which is not something we're going to do here. But what I would say is, I think there's two conditions I think that would give me comfort. One would be, like you suggested, remittances on the county, obviously change that over time if need be. The other one would be that this waiver of dual control would expire if she were to leave the position, and we could reconsider it for a subsequent person. I think those two things would give me comfort that we wouldn't be 20 years down the road and find ourselves in a lifetime movie because this person inherited this waiver of dual control and now they can just send money to the firm.
So is there any kind of like limits on the amount of money she has access to? Meaning like she can't tap into our main general fund checking account, like.
No, she doesn't have authorization for that. The Board of Commissioners, around the time of your last meeting, signed new bank, signature cards, and she's not on it.
So I guess there's somewhat of a control right there, that she only has access to so much money, basically.
She has her own account at a different bank than the township, and these ACHs are going from the tax collector's account into the township's account and the county's account. The tax collector does not have a way of approving invoices or writing checks off of any of the township's accounts. Then we're even in different banks.
That's a positive.
And I think there was a limit of how much she could remit her ACH transaction to. I think it's like 500,000.
Half a million, yeah.
I don't love it, but like you like that, Andy, with those.
I think so. I think my opinion is that this sounds not, it's just toil. It's unnecessary. I would say like, if it expires on her departure, I would be comfortable with that, and we could reconsider it if she would extend the waiver.
And I think it depends on the individual that you're hiring or looking at based on the kind of decision you're making, and to do that ahead of the game, I think is premature.
I'm sorry, Andy, I thought you said there was a second control you put into or not? Is it just so you would have it expire basically? I thought there was a second.
And that it was limited to remittances to the town, to the county.
Gotcha. Yeah.
You may be doing this again if the school district decides to accept ACH remittances, and those will be well in excess of $500,000. Because the vast majority of real estate taxes, as anyone who's property owner should know, is remitted to the school district.
That may require my familiarity with digital bank transfers is fuzzy, but might not even be ACH, so it might require a different waiver anyway.
I suspect that one of the reasons that I don't know this as 100% surety, but I suspect one of the reasons the school district is not doing it right now is that there are 5 different municipalities, 5 different tax collectors. Everybody's got to be on the same sheet of music. So the Governor Mifflin School District isn't doing this right now. But if they do decide or are able to corral all of the tax collectors into going in the same direction, we may be revisiting this.
You want to do a subject to motion, Andy?
Yeah, you have all of the.
Yes, what I have is a motion to authorize a resolution for the waiver of dual control, subject to remittances are only to the county in regard to that approval, and the approval will expire if this particular tax collector leaves the position. And just to reaffirm the fact that it's an elected, so in other words, Ms. Diebel is up for election this year. If she is not reelected, then this would expire at the end of her term.
You'll have to come and speak on next time. State your name and address.
Hi, Mike University, 1098 Full Road. So the dual commission was given her. So if the tax collector becomes incapacitated, she dies, sick, or whatever, does that dual part give the township commissioners to go ahead and pay the tax?
No, she has a deputy tax collector that was previously approved by the township, that's in writing. And if, Ms. Depot is reelected this year and has a subsequent term next year, you will have to approve her deputy tax collector again at that, in January.
Does this take it away from the deputy also? Dual control?
No, it would be the tax collector, whoever is necessary to process the taxes. Now, the account is under Ms. Beeble's name, but I'm sure that she will have her deputy as a potential substitute if that's ever required.
Thank you.
Kelsey, I think that brings a good question. Given some catastrophic outcome, surely there's legal pathways to like remediating whatever frozen funds might exist.
Yeah, I mean, the deputy would take over for the time being, and then I believe the vacancy board would step in and appoint a substitute head tax collector until the election opens up and someone new is elected. So that's part of what your vacancy board does as well.
So there is a motion on the table. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Badger.
Yes.
Mr. Donnell.
Yes.
Mr. Bill Miller.
Yeah.
Mr. Greg Miller.
Yes.
Ms. Rao.
Yes.
The last item is just a notation that the fishing derby is on May 3rd. I do believe there are still some spots available. And then it has to be children 12 and under.
Yes, it's this Saturday. It's at the, Brady Pond. If anyone is interested, you can call into the township. The ladies have a form to fill out. And, it's limited to the first, 50, children. And I think we are up to 39 as of today. So, I do have a few spots. The only thing is, there's snacks and there's prizes and all that good stuff. So I would ask if anyone's interested to, please get it in to be, by Thursday. So, but I have at least Friday to get it all together. And pray that it doesn't rain too bad this weekend. But yes, it's a lot of fun, 12 and under. They just bring all their fishing gear, the worms, the whatever they need. We provide snacks and prizes. We have tagged fish. It is stocked. The fish are coming tomorrow, so I'll be over there with the fish tomorrow. And it's a lot of fun. Everybody walks away big smiles, and of course there's trophies for like the biggest, golden and the biggest, and a couple years ago, because there's some little kids, I started the smallest fish. And last year there was 2 siblings, and I think that was the biggest competition, was who had the smallest fish. So anyway, it's a great time, and if you know of anybody, just call in by Thursday. Thanks. It's over on Hemlock Road.
Hemlock Road. And to be clear, the police department mans the event. And this is the Cops and Kids Fishing Derby. We've been having this for many, many years. There is no rain day. Part of being in the wild is being in the weather.
And Officer Ollie does make an appearance too. So he's always there.
So next is the commissioner section, and we're going to tackle the zoning and hearing board, but I believe this morning minutes will talk about that.
If you would like, we can also tackle the burn ban.
Yeah, if you want to go ahead with that, Chief?
Certainly, commissioners, due to conditions outside of my control, the burn ban's going to be extended until maybe
Bay Commissioners meeting. Things have not gotten any better, they've got worse, and it's gonna continue. We get to that meeting and it'll be updated to potentially the next meeting if we need to do so. Things have not gotten any better. It's more of an FYI. And it's definitely helping here in this township. But thank you.
Is that a countywide burn ban or is that Cumru specific?
It's Cumru specific. There's some other places that are following suit. DCR has put out a big thing about how dry it is. As a matter of fact, Cumberland County is about 1,000 acres burning right now. That's the sign right there that things are not good. Even though we're getting rain, heavy winds follow. We get some rain, like next week, I think they're calling for rain for maybe 4 days in a row. Things are going to improve, but we can control what happens here, but there's lots of places out there where they're actually telling people not to burn. Matter of fact, you're restricted, I think, in a lot of the state parks and so forth. So can't open campfires, stuff like that. It's just part of the thing we're dealing with right now. We need some rain, lots of it. So. That's all I have. Let's see other questions.
Thank you. And after the big deal since Chief Chester doesn't have anything, we have one more department that would respond. So we may as well put that on.
Good evening. We have a consideration for compensating change order number 1 for the Secret Top Road sewer replacement job. That's a reduction change order in the amount of $13,628. Do we need separate motions on this?
It could be a two-part motion to accept the reducing change order and then the application for payment.
Part 2 of the law is the application for payment in the amount of $153,191.00 for that same Secret Top Road project.
I would move to authorize the compensating change order for the application.
I second.
Mr. Donnell,
Yes.
Mr. Bill Miller,
Yes.
Mr. Greg Miller,
Yes.
Mr. Bachelor.
Yes.
Ms. Rao.
Yes,
Thank you.
That's all I have.
thank you.
Okay, so as the board knows, there were resignations from the zoning hearing board. Both members and 2 alternates resigned, and they did send a letter dated April 22nd, 2025, which I believe everybody took a copy of. There was also, sorry, the 3rd member resigned April 24th, 2025, and the solicitor also resigned at that point in time as well. So right now, there are vacancies on the zoning board consisting of 3 permanent members and 2 alternates. There is currently 1 alternate already sitting on the board, that's Mr. Ben Fisher. And so there is a list of potential appointees that I think Jean created for the board members so that you guys have, names and sort of some background information on each of them. And at this point, if the board so desires, you can have discussion on those individuals and make any motions you wish to appoint anyone to the zoning hearing board and to the alternate positions. The zoning hearing board itself will need to select its own solicitor. So once the zoning hearing board is formed and appointed by this board, my recommendation would be that they hold a special meeting as soon as possible so that they can organize, pick their chairperson and then go through that process and then also select the solicitor to help them with their hearings. There is a current application pending before the zoning hearing board that will need to be heard within the requisite time frame pursuant to the municipality's planning code. So the sooner that this can happen, the better. Otherwise, we will need to get a time extension from the applicant if they're willing to do that.
Since we have a ballot, why don't we just vote and a ballot over to Jean, if she can come up with the numbers and say who got elected or appointed and so on, instead of going over every name.
Well, and before we do that, a lot of these folks have come here tonight. Do we want to hear from them? That's just kind of a question.
I would like to hear from them personally. I think the public here, it sounds like the public would like to hear from better than hearing for the candidates as well.
How about everybody else stay or shut up? No offense with you. Okay, well, let's three of us, so I'd like to hear from folks.
If you'd like, is there anyone here who would like to, anyone that,
Perhaps one way to do it is to go down the list. Oh, then,
oh, and you want to make this one last, and it's only my name.
Dan, good evening. Ben Fisher, 24 Allen Lane. So what do you want, from me?
Would you like to give any background?
Oh, okay. Yeah, so I had the pleasure of serving for the last, around 6 months or so. We got a couple meetings in, winter was pretty slow, so I think there was 2 or 3 months where we didn't have any meetings, so. You guys are looking for full-time members. I'm interested if you so desire. So I was an alternate for about half a year. So, any other questions?
I would just comment that if the board does desire to move Mr. Fisher from an alternate into a permanent position, then the numbers change. Then we're only looking for 2 more permanent positions and then 3 alternate.
I'd like to make a motion.
Also, good.
Mr. Bill Miller,
Yes.
Mr. Greg Miller,
Yes.
Mr. Bachelor,
Yes.
Mr. Donnell,
Yes.
Ms. Rao.
So like I said, now we're looking for 2 permanents and 3 alternates.
Could I propose similar to what Bill had suggested? Can we just rank our preferences down the list and then the top 2 get the permanent seats and second, the next 2 get the alternate seats?
I think that's fine.
Do you still wish them to speak before you read them?
There's some folks that want to talk.
Sorry, jumping the gun. I'll use them.
Sorry, please come on and speak.
I'm Scott Horner, 138 Medina Drive in Flying Hills. I'm a 31-year resident of Cumru Township, Navy veteran. I am planning on retiring from my medical practice at the end of September, so I'm going to have some time on my hands. I've been to some zoning hearings in this area and also in Delaware, and I have some familiarity with it. Is interested in helping you. Name's Donald Lebo. I'm originally from Birdsboro. I served in various committees in the borough of Birdsboro. I was chairman of the planning commission. I was the council president, and I served as the mayor of Birdsboro for 23 months. And so I moved to Flying Hills. I moved to Flying Hills in 2021. And I live on 34 Muirfield Drive in Flying Hills.
How long has it been already?
Here or Birdsboro?
Thank you.
Is that working yet?
I'm not sure with this one. Hi, it's Mike Novatarski, 1098 Fruitville Road. I'm a resident of Cumru Township for somewhere around 50 years. My dad built a house in 1950 on 1098 Greenville Road, which actually used to be 258 Greenville Road, but there are a lot of addresses were added since I was a kid. I'm presently sitting on the board for ASME B30 Engineering for Association of the United States. I also was a previous member of the ski patrol. I worked at Partner Technologies for the last 18 years. I'm a licensed crane operator in the state of Pennsylvania. Also, I worked for a lot of excavating companies as a young guy here, in Fawn Drive with Sealy and excavating, so I get my way around, you know, excavation and road installations and stuff like that. I did a lot of sewer work with Rubach excavating, so know my way around the construction site pretty well. So I would be interested in this position and to talk with. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Todd Woodward, 730 Fairmont Avenue. Resident of Cumru since about 02, and prior to that, get her, so I've been in the different school district. Background, also carpenter, spent 28 and a half years there in an engineering capacity, whether it's engineer, managing, etc. Retired from there and then moved on to consulting engineering with RGA Engineering, which is again a local company based out of White Mississippi. So I'm here. There's a call that there's a need for some help. So I'm here to, you know, lend my hand if it's so required.
Yes, my name's Andy Enner. I was born and raised in Shillington. I lived there 52 years and I live on Hunter's Road now for 12. I've been in construction for 37 years. I worked for the H&K Group for 25 and have hopped around a couple different places since then. CMS, local. I work for Skeptic Construction right now. We missed a pre-bid on this fire company, which I could have walked down the hill to the job. And I'm interested in getting into some zoning.
I speak up here because it's on qualified men that are applying for the position. But my name's Betty Volk and I am a real estate agent. I've been in the real estate industry full time for 50 years. And in those years, I have many times worked with homeowners where we had to have rezoning done on properties. So I'm somewhat familiar. Do I have a lot of knowledge with it? No, I don't, but I can always learn. But being with customers who have had to go through it and my having to sit at the meetings and look at drawings and so forth, plot plans, I feel that I have such somewhat interest. I have definite interest, but I have somewhat knowledge concerning it. And I would be happy to serve if I would be needed.
Thank you. Very well.
We can definitely play rehearsal.
My name's Erica Fair. I live at 58 Aspen. Was going to come up here because everybody else seems so much more passionate about construction experience. I'm happy to help in any capacity. I'm a full-time realtor, not involved in betting. And I'm also a owner of real estate company, Iron Valley. Thank you.
We have a lot of them here.
And again, for the board's edification, this is on your agenda. We could use 2 alternates for the Civil Service Commission.
Then, do you Or would any of the folks who are here and volunteering their time for the zoning hearing board be willing to, should you not be selected for the zoning hearing board, sit on our civil service commission? It's a very important civil service.
You define that position or that name.
The Civil Service Commission is a quasi judicial board similar to the zoning hearing board. There are 3 main members and up to 3 alternates. And they, a quorum is 3. That's on these 2 boards. The reason there are alternates is that it's a requirement of the regulations that there be 3 at a meeting. I mean, 2 doesn't cut it. In regard to what they do, both the police and fire in the township of the first class are required to be hired pursuant to a civil service process, which means there are regulations about how the candidates are tested. They have a written test, a physical test, and then an oral interview. And each of those tests is ranked, they're scored. And there are certain other regulations such as someone who is a veteran receives extra points. And then a list is produced of ranking the candidates who have passed from their highest score to the lowest score. And then that list is maintained for a year and be renewed for an additional year. And then when the township hires police or fire, and there's a list, 1 for police, 1 for fire, then the candidates must be chosen from that list. So no, it's not like, oh, there's a job opening, let's just submit an application. It's not like that. The testing is required. And in fact, the police department just went through the civil service testing, and the Civil Service Commission has been asked to establish a meeting to look over the results and then produce a list that is forwarded to the Board of Commissioners for the Board of Commissioners to select hiring from. The Civil Service Commission certifies the list. So they do not meet on a regular basis, and the meetings are totally customized to 1, when a round of testing has occurred, and 2, the availability of the Civil Service Commission. So, for example, the next, after the police testing, the next thing is we need to maintain a list of potential candidates for the fire department. We have to look into having the written test and the oral test and the physical test for the fire department as well. So that's the summary of the Civil Service Commission. This hasn't happened in many years. There is the potential for a dispute. So for example, if someone believes that someone was hired in error and they should have been hired, that, you know, I was gypped out of a position, they can bring a complaint. And certain types of disciplinary matters can go before the Civil Service Commission. Again, that hasn't happened in many years, but it is potential. All their meetings are customized to when their services are required.
And it may be, I'm sorry, Gina,
That's all right.
I was just gonna say, anything, we go through, pick the zoning numbers, and then we can individualize it. Okay. So what exactly were we doing here? I guess we're gonna, rank and stack these basically?
That's what I suggested. I think he suggested everybody just vote, and then passing on, I would just suggest like we rank them, everybody can put a ranking in, and then.
No, it's gonna be a ballot. All you have to do is check off wherever you want. Do your whole ballot, we'll give it to Jean, and she can tally it, and the people that have the most votes.
I recommend,
I was hoping to avoid revoting and revoting if it's not.
I will give it to Kelsey, that's fine.
That's fine.
I printed out, actually.
Just for clarity, so if the 2 people that get the most votes, they would sit on the board. The people they are 3 through 5 would be the alternates.
If that's what you would like, yeah.
All right, if we end up with the tie, then we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. Okay.
Should we all sing the Jeopardy music?
You guys already made assumptions for my.
Yeah, lobby. I did. I'm sorry. What's that? Yeah. Yeah. Always separating. Side. I'm going to spread. But I said it was like, oh.
Okay, so based on the ballots that you submitted, Todd Woodward had the most votes. So that he would be considered a permanent member of the zoning hearing board. Scott Warner and Don Lebo both had tie votes for second place. So one of them would need to be voted as a permanent member to fill out the board for permanent membership. And then the second one would move down to become an alternate. So you would need a vote on that because the ballots are tied.
I mean, we could just,
You can just get my vote.
say we stop, for,
Yeah, Scott Warner and Don Lebo.
We could just go down the list and say which one we prefer for which, like start,
Yeah,
I can start. And say, I think I, on my ballot, I think I put,
Yeah, and I do.
Mr. Horner for my full-time position.
I want to the problem is I numbered them all down, 1 to 10.
Yeah, everybody did this. Everybody did this. Just
So it's not counted right, because everybody else is just doing.
the 1 through 5 is, would effectively be your 5X's though, right?
Yeah,
Six,
right, your 1 through 5 would effectively be your 5 your 5 votes. So I was counting this, whoever got the most votes overall between all of your voting is the top appointee, and then moving down. Yeah.
Okay.
If you want to do it a different way, we can, but I'm so caught up in it. Let's just think.
So I guess Dave's up, right? Andy picked, or Andy picked Scott.
In Shirley Bones, Horner.
Just recast the vote for those two.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. I mean, if everybody wants to,
Favor.
if everybody wants to look at it, I mean, however the board wants to do it.
Yeah, I mean, do we all want?
Someone can just make a
want to
motion to appoint one of them as the permanent and if that motion passes, they're the permanent and the next.
I'm happy to make a motion that or if everybody prefer to revote, that's fine.
Let's just pick, we got the paper, let's just pick between Scott and Don.
An A or B? Yes, mayor.
Means stop.
Well, everybody's asking, I guess. I think I'm curious, Mr. Horner and Mr. Lebo, would either of you like suggest you wouldn't be interested in being an alternate, or are you open to both being a primary and an alternate?
Why don't we just let the vote play out? Is that all right?
On the majority vote.
Okay, so it looks like. It looks like. It looks like Scott got the most votes for permanent, and then Don got the second most votes, so he would be the first alternate.
Yes,
So we have, I just want to make sure I'm getting this right. We have Mr. Fisher, Mr. Woodward, and Mr. Horner as our permanent board, correct? Okay. Then we have Dawn as our first alternate. So we need one more, well, two more alternate, which works because there was a tie for the last two places, and that would be Betty Volk and Mike Nowakarski. So we, yeah, we have 3 and 3.
Something I want to point out is there are staggered terms for the zoning hearing board. So, if Mr. Fisher, his term would expire 1/1/28. And then, I don't know if the board has any preference. The next would be, 1/1/27, 1/1/26. The municipality's planning code requires the terms to be staggered, and those are the current terms. These individuals are filling in on the current term. I understand the distinction between the more permanent members and the alternate members. Do you wish me just to assign a year, or is there any preference on the length of term?
You explain there's how many for
There,
the longer term, how many for the shorter term?
they're essentially what you've got are 3 permanent positions and 3 alternate positions. 1 permanent and 1 alternate, one term expires 1/1/26. The next set expires 1/1/27, and the next set expires 1/1/28. The goal of the municipality planning code, barring an unforeseen event like we're just resolving now, the municipality planning code, the goal is to only have 1 permanent position and 1 alternate position have a term expiration every year. So that there are at least 2, it's rotating. So, it makes sense. The way we've always done this is to fill in when there is an unforeseen event, to fill in the longest serving term first. So we got you, Mr. Fisher, until 1/1/28. But everyone else gets plugged into the different term expirations.
Is anyone opposed to Kelsey picking the names from the hat?
I mean, I think you could do it based on the way you voted. So you voted for Ben first, so I would say you would get the first alternate was Dawn. So Dawn and Ben's terms would sync up.
That works.
And then you have Todd and Betty's terms sync up, and Scott and Mike's terms sync up. Does that make sense?
Yeah, good.
Thank you.
So for the civil service, then we have Erica still here. We have Mr. Yoder still here. Am I missing anybody else that's here? Would either of the two of you be interested in the civil service board? Looks like we got 2 yeses there.
I'm sorry, let me take a note there. Who are they?
It was Erica Fair and Andrew Yetter, both volunteered to be alternates for the Civil Service Commission.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sure, that was Ben Fisher, Todd Woodward, and Scott Horner.
Now, I need a vote. I need a vote on that slate as for the civil, the zoning hearing board, and then I need a vote for the 2 civil service alternates.
I move to certify the vote as specified. Mr. Fisher, Mr. Horner, Mr. Woodworth as full-time members of the zoning hearing board, Mr. Lebo, Ms. Volk, and Mr. Nowatarski as alternate.
I second.
Mr. Bill Miller,
Yes.
Mr. Greg Miller,
Yes.
Mr. Badger.
Yes.
Mr. Donnell.
Yes.
Ms. Rao. Now I need a vote for the Civil Service Commission.
So moved.
Same.
And that's for Ms. Fair and Mr. Yetter, correct? And those are alternates, and off the top of my head, I can't remember when those expirations date.
Either of you opposed to, pulling from the hat now that.
Who is, the first?
I would,
That's what I thought. Okay, I had to make sure. Mr. Greg Miller,
Yes.
Mr. Badger,
Yes.
Mr. Donnell.
Yes.
Mr. Bill Miller,
Yes.
Ms. Rao. Thank you. So for the two individuals, Ms. Fair and Mr. Yetter, with respect to the Civil Service Commission, we're trying to set up a meeting right now to certify the list for the police department. We will, we need your contact information. So that we can notify you of that. As alternates, it's not required to attend. You might wish to in order to meet the other civil service commission member. We will keep you posted. If during, there will be something of a break to give Patty your contact info.
Do you think the same for the zoning hearing board, Gene?
Ultimately, yes, that would be extremely helpful. The Civil Service Commission was on my mind because that's a very immediate need. But yeah,
Betty just,
but I think I have, Ms. Volk's contact information. Mr. Bador had previously encouraged her to be on the zoning hearing board, so I have correspondence with her. But most of the other individuals, I do not. I believe I have Mr. Nowatarski's contact information. I think I do. From previous from your zoning hearing. But for the other individuals, Mr. Woodworth, Mr. Lebo, Horner, yes, we could use contact information.
Greg Miller.
I have your email address. I don't remember. if there's
Yeah,
cell phone
that would
posting.
Yeah, the email address is the most important.
Okay, well, I have an email for Mr. Warner, and a phone number for Mr. Lebo.
So thank you. With respect to the zoning hearing board, the idea would be to get together for an organization meeting. And at that point, and no hearings, just organization. The board will be sworn, both the Civil Service Commission and the zoning hearing board have to be sworn. But I would likely be doing that. And then choose a chair and a vice chair, and discuss the issue of those solicitors.
For correspondence. That I want to remind you. The zoning board required in 725 at 6 p.m. Application number 832, registering storage space 2 for expansion of non-conforming use.
And that's under the assumption that we're still able to maintain the schedule. We have notified the developer that the zoning hearing board is in flux. We have not received an extension of time yet, but we're hopeful. But I think they're waiting to see how things work out. Thank you.
Could I backtrack for a second, Alicia? The Titus plan, the letter that we got, I don't know if Gene could shed a little light on that.
Yes, I can. If anyone is familiar with the Poplar Neck area, there are actually 2 power stations out in the Poplar Neck area. And I'm not talking about the old Titus Station power plant. There are 2 electrical substations out there. There are a lot of electrical facilities in addition to the old coal-fired power plant. Titus Power is the one of the substations that has gas turbines there that everybody hear what happened to Spain? Everything went dark for a day. If we end up, our grid goes down in this area, that's one of the locations that helps light off the grid. So it's a very important piece of infrastructure. They already have an air quality permit because they're using natural gas. And they have applied for a renewal of their air quality permit. They're required to do that every 5 years. In the second item, your rescheduled May meeting has been advertised. The third item you might be interested in, Western Birch landfill is the landfill that's in Cumru Township. I have been stating to you based on information from them that they were closing. Well, we finally got that landfills have to apply for when they open, they have to apply for when they expand, and they have to apply for when they close. Think of it as the analogous to a demolition permit. Interestingly, we just received a couple of days ago a copy of their permit for a temporary closure. So they clearly believe that at some point they will be able to expand. They have not, I have no plans for an expansion. They have not applied for an expansion, but they would not have phrased their permit in this way if they did not have some reasonable belief that they could expand in the future. Back to those electrical substations I referred to, that Ed is currently doing a tremendous amount of work on the other substation, not the one for Titus Power, because they're operated by different entities. It's our understanding that MedEd's ultimate goal is to remove some of those wires and powers from the landfill property. Right now, they're the big towers that look like a big giant person with their arms up. We believe that some of those towers will be removed. Once they are removed, then the landfill would be able to apply for an expansion permit in that area where the towers formerly were for more airspace. And the reason it becomes of interest to the township is the township receives revenue from the landfill for every ton that they collect. Cumru, because they're located here, is called the host municipality. And it is a state regulation that landfills have to pay a fee for every ton of trash collected through the host municipality, and that goes into the general fund. So that their A and C are kind of connected.
Just to check my understanding, that permit they're applying for is just for that gas generator. This is blanking out.
Where the gas turbines are.
Gas turbine, that's what
Yeah.
I'm looking for. It's not for anything else that's being proposed.
It's not for the whatever the Titus Station former coal-fired power plant is going to turn into. They have not submitted a land development plan yet.
Okay.
The only thing that I'm aware of happening there is they have reinstalled the rail siding. So there are plans to do things there, but we haven't received a land development plan yet. To clarify, the substation where the gas turbines are was subdivided by a leasehold subdivision several years ago. A different entity operates that, different from who owns the actual old coal-fired power plant and different from MedEd. It is an actual separate company. They just happen to call themselves Titus Power, which is, I wish they had chosen Fred or some other name that was very distinguishable. It all sounds like the same place, but it's not. There are actually 3 different entities out there.
Continuing with the reminders, Board of Commissioners meeting for May and June 25. May 22nd at 7 p.m. It's a regular meeting, scheduled due to the primary election on the same day. And June 17th at 7 p.m. That's regular meeting. Planning Commission, May 5th at 6 p.m.
And I honestly don't think we need an executive session for this item. It is a matter of public record, so there's no real reason for us to go into executive session to talk about it. I just wanted to let you guys know, because I've been following the Old Hickory Buildings land use appeal that's been pending in the Court of Common Pleas. They actually withdrew their appeal. So that litigation has been resolved. There's no longer any litigation pending. My understanding is that they are going to revise their plans so that they don't need any relief any longer. Which is the reason they withdrew their land use appeal. So I just wanted to update the board on that issue.
They have submitted a revised plan, which will be reviewed at the May Planning Commission meeting. They have removed all improvements from Cumru Township. So, the only building on the plan is in Robeson Township. And so, yeah.
Move to adjourn.
A second.
Yeah.